special episode. So, Andy, how are you?
I'm doing well. Enjoying the summer. It's a great hot one, which is fun.
Yeah,
And we're still working from home. We're still remote. Most of our employees are remote, so you get to see us in our natural environments here.
yeah, pretty cool. So, we're continuing this whole series really focused on retention. So, if you guys are watching this show, somehow you came across it for the first time, we have a whole show that is dedicated to a bunch of steps in the process about how you can improve retention of your user base, your customers. Today is kind of a special episode because we did like our core, I want to say 12 principles or whatnot. And we're adding a few to that because we think there's a lot to talk about just with the importance of retention and reducing churn. So today we're talking about marketing to the right customers, the whole concept of, if you market to the right audience, you're going to have better results. And not just for that initial sale, but also for purpose of keeping them long term. So I think it's a great concept. Andy, you and I talk a lot about really getting focused, really getting targeted in our business, just in going after the right audience. So tell me more about how this impacts really on the retention side.
Yeah, this is one of those interesting ones that it's really about marketing and drives into marketing and conversion and sales. But, this is the part where it blends and mixes with that retention piece, which you mentioned in the beginning, we find so important because, if you're not retaining users, you're not keeping them, you really have a hard time scaling and growing. And then the other tie back, interestingly enough, here is that all the dollars that you're putting into your marketing and, sales, advertising, if you're getting users into the application and they're leaving very quickly, you've wasted a lot of those dollars. And so it's really about trying to ROI possible out of your marketing. But then the other side is that if we're pushing users in, the ones that are more likely to stay and continue using the software are the right customers that get the most value out of the product, that understand it, that, can get others involved, all of these different things. And so that's where there is this interesting bridge now, marketing and retention, of really getting the most ROI and making sure that we're actually getting users in that have the highest likelihood of being retained.
Yeah, so it's truly marketing for business fit. It's not just marketing to who will buy, but marketing, the solution to the right audience, the ones that will use it, they'll value it, they'll get results from it, they'll enjoy using it, whatever, the use cases of the product. But it's for, I guess it's marketing with the long term in mind as opposed to just making the sale. And I think marketing, in most cases, we think about how do we get someone on board. But in SaaS business, where it's so important, that retention piece is so critical. You got to have more of that long term planning and thought put into it. Now, something that you and I talk a lot about, just when we talked about it this morning when we had our little check-in. But we talk about the idea of frictionless selling, and it's targeting the right audience with the right message. And so we've gotten good about really narrowly defining what our offering is and who the right audience for that is. And I think that is part of it. There's a reason that some people see your solution are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Let's go, let's do this. And it's not just because they had a compelling, there was a compelling pitch or the price. It's all around. It's, wow, they do this for a certain type of business or type of consumer, and that is me, and these are the challenges that I have, and this is what it solves. Now, your solution has to deliver, right? That goes without saying. But I do think that kind of ties into this conversation, that whole frictionless selling, because when you sell to an audience outside of that really targeted focus area, then not everything is of benefit to them. Not everything is of interest to them. And it's harder to get their attention when it's outside of that realm. So.
Well, and it's interesting with software as a service, I think, that makes this different than others. For us, we look at as a consulting firm and helping other companies that if we're marketing the right people, when we get in the sales process, it's frictionless because we right fit and it's easy to get people to do with us. With the software, it's interesting because your marketing, when you've got freemium versions or free trials, your marketing team can easily go out and find people to just click that button and fill out that form. I mean, you can offer coupons and deals and affiliate programs and all this stuff that can just drive tons of users into the system. But if they're not the right people, then we get back to where we are. For us, I mean, fortunately, most people have to pay up, that there's money involved in it. There's no free trial, and so that's why it's even more important for a software, because you can really overload your system with the wrong people. And that causes a lot of problems. Again, not only is it lost dollars on the marketing, like we mentioned, it's high retention or low retention rates, but then even the other is false signals in your data. If you're getting different, all these people are viewing certain features in the software and you're saying, wow, that must be the most important feature, but it's the wrong audience and most of those people quit, then you're getting data that might not be correct and making decisions about your roadmap that could be wrong. And so it really is probably more important for a software company than anything to get the right targets to them, because not only are they going to convert more, and that's usually what you and I talk about, is we're trying to narrow our audience so that we can increase conversion. Yeah. In this case, I think you really just want to do it across the board and make sure you're getting it right, because it just causes so many issues and challenges when you're just, bringing in whatever warm body's willing to fill out the form.
Your point on road mapping is incredible.
I think he was going to say my point on road mapping before he dropped off.
What was that?
I told the audience, I'm like, I think he was going to tell me that I'm incredible before.
Yeah, you missed it, and now you'll never know. No, I think that was a really powerful point that you're touching on about when you're looking at road mapping, because if you're taking feedback from your users and you're using that data to determine what's the features to focus on, to enhance, to continue to grow, to add, or to not focus on, but it's the wrong audience. What are you now building? You're building a product not for the people that are your ideal audience that should be using it, but for these outliers that somehow have made their way in. And yeah, they've paid a month or two, but ultimately that's could be very detrimental in the long term. So that's an interesting one. I didn't really give that a whole lot of thought, but that road mapping piece, that's an example of why this has repercussions beyond just they don't stay around long.
Well, and I think people think, like, who's going to sign up for the software that doesn't fit their needs? But, I've seen companies that have affiliate programs where, someone is recommending this and they're sending out links and saying, you need to sign up for this. There's a lot of people that do that, when that comes through those channels, they just click it, they fill out the form just to see what's there. And again, I don't know if that's the right approach, and you really have to be careful about it. Yeah. I think strategically for companies, what they really have to do is, and this goes back to even some of our past shows on like brand strategy, is how do you determine your best target audience, and really looking at things like what is the opportunity or the market share that's available, what's the competition, how specialized are you for that target audience, what experience do you have, what level of demand is there. And then with software, there's other things of, looking at what is the value of the features to that audience, like, what would they value that at? And when you measure those and you say, okay, well, it's a 5 out of 5 on opportunity, it's a 3 out of 5 on competition, demand is high, specialization is high, value is high. Okay, that's the right audience for me. But this one that's down here, that maybe the value's lower, the opportunity's lower, the competition is higher, we're going to make sure that we don't market to those people. So it very similarly goes back to that brand strategy we've talked about, to determine and prioritize your target audiences before you do any marketing.
And then I think for marketing teams to take that seriously, right? So if you're building that brand foundation, you're saying this is where we fit in the marketplace, this is where there's opportunity, we can, take advantage of where we're strong, take advantage of where there's opportunity. If you start to, just for the sake of getting more users, getting more clicks, getting more, opt-ins, that type of thing, you start going outside of that determined audience, that's when this stuff starts to come in, and you're now possibly converting, especially if your marketing's good, right? If your marketing's good, you can convert those outliers, people that don't fit your market, but ultimately that there's a downside to that. And churn's going to be one, but I think there's more fallout beyond that.
Well, I think it's interesting you said getting the marketing team behind it, but getting the entire company. I mean, I think you and I know clients of ours that, it's constantly this idea of like, how can we expand the audience? Our product would be great for this, or, a little change here would open up this audience. And instead of focusing on a market and trying to get maximum penetration and maximum market share, I think it's easy for people to say, okay, let's keep going after this audience, but if we expand it, there's so much more opportunity. And that, again, to me, just adds a lot of trouble, because even from a, again, retention standpoint, are you going to keep those outlying audiences that you're new in? Are they going to give you false information to drive your roadmap in the wrong direction? And now we're getting into the cost of development, that if you're building out features that don't fit your core audience, what's the cost of that development? And then the marketing that goes into that audience for users that might not have a high retention rate. And so I think it is really a lot about trying, the more that you can narrow your audience and the more that you can stay focused on it, your roadmap, your profitability, your scalability, and how you really drive, penetrating that market is so much better.
Yeah, so I got to resist that temptation. People see opportunity all over the place, but you got to hit your target audience and stay focused there. It's super important.
It's a hard exercise. I think that a lot of, visionaries, people that create software, have big ideas and they want to take on more. And, but there is something to, I've found, getting to this place where you know your audience and you build this level of confidence about it, that, when other things come up, you can really push them away. And so it is getting to that level of like, okay, I've logically figured out that this is my best audience. We've determined strategies to really leverage that and penetrate that market. And I feel really confident about this direction, and it's my why, and it fits with, who I want to be and where I want my company to go, so that, these other things that come up, it's easy to mark them off as distractions.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Trying to think what else. But yeah, that's the majority of it, is really coming back to determining that target audience from a strategic standpoint. It's really about making sure that it's not just an idea that is happening in marketing, but the whole company is behind staying focused. And then really making sure that if you do have outliers, making sure you can kind of track that data so that you know that it's not going to influence roadmap or anything like that. And so it is really important, I think, to have that clear indication And then even within your data, potentially, can you segment those customers into cohorts almost?
Yeah.
That here's my ideal customers, and I can see information and data on what they're doing and how they're interacting. And then here are ones that are outliers, and I can, pay attention to that, but in a different way.
Yeah, so that's a great point there, is how can we track separately? So if we can segment out those outliers, then at least we can be more careful, more cautious with it. So the whole idea of cohorts and analysis, I know that's something that we'll probably have one of our upcoming episodes, perhaps our next one, where we could talk in a little more detail. I think that's a pretty deep and interesting conversation to go into. But I think that will be one of our upcoming shows here. We'll probably dig into that a little bit deeper.
Yeah, it's really taking, we did that whole episode on data, and I think that cohort analysis was a piece of it, but it's definitely a piece that you can go into a lot more depth about.
Yeah.
For sure. So cool. Well, I think that was some great, stuff, and hopefully valuable to the audience that is watching and trying to decrease their churn rate and increase retention. And like you said, we're going to be coming back and doing a couple more of these special episodes. And then on the Insivia site, we have tons of other episodes and lots of articles and content and things, really focused around how do you increase retention, especially since a lot of it is built around our specific program that we have that helps software companies systematically go through and improve retention. So,
you know what? And I actually was going to say, we don't typically sell on our show here, but just to mention, that's something that we actually do. So we have a program that we work with, software companies and help them, walk them through this process. We kind of show you what we look at and what the process is, but if that's something that you can, you might find beneficial to increase your retention, reduce your churn, then reach out. We're happy to talk about it, tell you how our process works and all that. But otherwise, dig into the rest of the content. We will have a number of additional special episodes focusing on retention. And if you don't have anything else, Andy, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow, like us wherever you're watching from, and we will see you guys next time.
Sounds great. See you, everybody.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.